Okay, today's video we're going to do on pre-checks that you want to do before you go out on the trail on your ATV. We're working on a 2005 Kawasaki Brute Force 750 today, but a lot of the checks are for any of them though. First thing we're going to look at is the engine oil. We're going to check engine oil. Just take it out, dipstick out, wipe it off, throw it back in. Make sure it seats the whole way down. Bring it back out. And we want the oil level to be somewhere in this cross-hatching area. And we also want to check like the color. Make sure it's not black or a dark brown color. This oil looks good. If it was low, we would want to put the Kawasaki ATV 1040 in it. This stuff's specially formulated for Kawasaki engines. While we're here, we're going to check out the coolant. We want it in between the high and the low section here. Just shake the tank a little bit. You can see it moving. It's right on the high level, so the coolant's good. We move the back of the four-wheeler. Now there's a couple of checks we have to do in the back of the four-wheeler. First one we're going to check is the rear diff oil in the back. The Kawasaki Brute Force has a special rear end oil that we put in if it's low. And when we take this cap off, we just want to make sure that that O-ring is in place. If it's not in place, it'll leak pretty bad. So we're going to check it, the level, right up to those threads, and that's good to go. If it would need oil put in it, for Kawasaki anyhow, we would use the gear and wet brake oil. It's specially formulated because there is a brake in the rear diff. You can't just throw any old 80, 90, or 90 weight in these, or you'll ruin that brake in there. So you want to make sure you check your specific four-wheeler and put in whatever your manufacturer recommends. And while we're back here, we're going to check the axles and the CV joints. Make sure these boots are okay. Get your hands in here, feel them, make sure they aren't ripped, tore, or anything. If they are, they're going to need replaced. Right here we got one that's tore. What can happen? Dirt and grease, or excuse me, dirt can get in there and can wear at the joint. And these axles cost $450 from Kawasaki, and that boot costs $20. So when you see a boot tore, definitely want to switch it out. You're going to save yourself a lot of money in the long run. Move right over here. We're going to check tire pressure real quick. If you notice my gauge, it's special. It's a low pressure gauge. A normal tire pressure gauge isn't sensitive enough to measure the low pressures required by these four-wheelers. So we're just going to check it. 5 pounds. It's perfect for this model, and we would do that for the rest of them then. And now we're going to move to the front. Same checks up front as we did in the back. The front diff. We're going to just check that out, make sure it's okay. And as you can see, we want to check for that O-ring, which isn't there. So we might make sure we grab that. Make sure we put it. We're going to look right in there. As we can see, it's a little low. We want the oil to come up to those threads to be even with them. So in this ATV, we would put in just regular 1040 motor oil. Different ATVs, you'd put 80, 90 in. So you want to really make sure you know what goes in here before you put something in. Best thing to do is contact your dealer and ask them. Just go ahead and throw this back on. And while we're up front too, we want to check the axles just like we did in the rear. Pull at them a little bit, make sure there's no cracks or tears or anything. And we want to check out the radiator while we're up here. We want to make sure it's not plugged with mud or dirt. If it is plugged with mud or dirt, it's not going to be able to cool the engine like it's supposed to, and you will overheat out on the trail. Alright, next thing we're going to check is the air cleaner. Just pop the seat off. And this one's fairly easy to check. Make sure that it looks clean. Make sure there's no mud or anything on it. Maybe rub your finger on it a little bit. Make sure you feel like an oily film on it. These filters, they do take oil. If it would be dirty, you'd want to use the Kawasaki air filter cleaner. And then after you would dry it, you want to use the foam filter oil in. And also we want to check the brake fluid. About halfway on the glass is good. You have a low level and a high level right there. Brake fluid you want to change out about every 2 years. It's hydroscopic, that means it attracts moisture. So about every 2 years for that. It'll start getting like a brownish, blackish color when it's bad. And last but not least, we want to check, make sure we have gas in it. If you don't have a fuel gauge, take your flashlight or just something, look down in there, make sure it's full of gas.